I'm Michael Dervan. I'm here in the splendour of Westport House to talk from afar with musicians from this year's Westport Festival of Chamber Music. The festival has had to relocate online because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, I'm only virtually here in Westport. In reality, I'm at home in Dublin, sitting in front of my computer to talk to members of the Marmen Quartet. At the other end of my Zoom connection is the quartet's viola player, Bryony Gibson-Cornish. She is 594 kilometres away from me in London. That's 846 kilometres distant from Westport. Hi, Bryony.
Hi, Michael, and thanks very much for having me.
So, what has 2020 been like for you?
2020 has been different to any other year that I could have imagined would have happened. We had quite a crazy year lined up where we were going to play around 120 concerts, probably double the number of concerts we were going to play last year, thanks to winning some competitions and having these tours that were set up for us. And so in a way it was sort of a double blow to go from something to thinking we were going to have something crazy and then to actually not so much. So it's been a really interesting year in terms of losing what we wanted to do and to just play many concerts. But we've really, I think it's made me realize how much I miss and love quartet, because we've spent the most amount of time that we've been away from each other since I joined the quartet 3 years ago. So from that perspective, it's been very strange in a way, because we're just so used to seeing each other on a fairly regular basis. So from that perspective, it's been crazy. I mean, 2020 has really, it's destroyed many different professions, and of course the music profession is amongst one of those professions, but I'm really sure that we will bounce back eventually, and the quartet too. I'm really hoping that we will get back to normal at some point, but it has given us time to reflect on how important music is and how important it is what we do. You know, it's the reason why we've spent our whole lives dedicated to music, and in a way to lose it for this time has really reminded us of just how important it is.
And if I can put it this way, what aspect of the quartet life have you had the greatest withdrawal symptoms from?
Most definitely it's been performing. I only realized this year just how serious my addiction was to the adrenaline of performing. It's quite a serious addiction actually, and I just didn't realize how much I really love doing it. And for me it's not performing in a way can come across as sounding a bit selfish, but in a way for me it's actually being in the same room as other people, as an audience, and to share something with them and make them feel something and to communicate. And when you lose that and when you go to this digital world, it's much harder to have the same sort of intimate connection that you have when you're playing this amazing string quartet music in lots of different places.
There's a true story about the pianist Shura Cherkassky. He was commissioned to record an LP of encores, and he went into the studio, and neither he nor the producer were really happy with how it was working out. And eventually Cherkassky said, look, when I play encores, it's at the end of a concert, and it's a special relationship then with myself and the audience. So would you bring in a little audience and I'll give a little concert and then I'll do the encores. And that's what they did, and it worked out fine.
That's exactly how I think everyone should always do recordings. I mean, the few sort of recorded concerts that I've been involved in this year, not actually with my quartet, but with a different group, have always been more successful when there have been even just 20 people in the audience. It feels different when you're actually communicating with people.
So how did you end up being the viola player in the string quartet?
Well, that's a fairly long story. When I didn't always want to be a violist. I was actually very intent on becoming an opera singer as a teenager. And although I did actually play in a string quartet as a teenager as well. And for me, that was what really sparked my love for the viola and the seriousness of that string quartet back then sort of gave me the bug, really, of being addicted to that, you know, this intimacy of 4 people in a room and just playing this amazing music. And then during the 10 odd years that I studied in sort of institutions around the place, I pretty much explored every other possibility of playing the viola in other ensembles, other sorts of music. And then I did basically a 360 back into going into a quartet. And so I basically joined the Marmen Quartet just as I finished my artist diploma degree at the Royal College of Music. And I was actually really relieved that I had found a quartet, because I had practically given up hope by then of a career in the chamber music.
Obviously better late than never.
Absolutely.
What's the best thing about your role, about the position of the viola in the string quartet and the way composers write for it?
Well, I think the interesting thing about the viola and string quartet is that the role has changed slightly, I suppose, over the centuries that string quartet music has been written. So from one perspective, it's really great that, you know, in later works, viola does get a bit more to do. But even when you look at Beethoven's work, it's unbelievable, the viola parts that I get to play. And what I really love about viola parts in general, and actually especially in the Beethoven quartets, is this, you get this variety of sometimes playing the cello line, so being the bass line, sometimes filling in the textures, often with the second violin, but sometimes by myself. Sometimes, every so often, I'll get to play a solo, but also some of my favorite writing is where I'm sort of playing a counter melody or playing a melody with another instrument in the quartet. And for me, the challenge of going between the different roles is one of the best things about it. It's you don't get that in many other sort of idioms in music.
And what's the most challenging aspect in the combination of the instrumental delivery, if I can put it that way, and the whole career aspect of it, which involves a lot of traveling and living in strange places and giving concerts in venues you've never even seen before you're going to play in them?
Well, actually, on this last point, I really enjoy discovering new places and new venues to play in. In fact, it's sort of exciting, because it's this, you have this promise of something new and something different, and you don't know how the audience is going to react. But then on the flip side, it's always really nice to return to a place where you've played before, because you know the audience, and hopefully they like you, or that you know that they've seen you grow over the time that you've been in the quartet. But I think for me, the biggest challenge is being away from home and from family, because I also I'm a bit of a homebody, but also as a New Zealander, I'm really used to traveling, and I love traveling. So it's a funny contradiction in a way, that I'm always struggling to find the balance between. But the thing that for me that really holds it all together is this addiction to performing, and I always need to find my way of sort of doing that with the quartet. And
tell me about the instrument you play and your relationship with it, and what's so special for you in it.
So my viola is relatively old, but not that old in the grand scheme of things. I first met it in May last year, and I do feel a bit like it was my magical talisman or something that helped us in the success in these competitions. And it really felt like a great time to be finding a new viola, because I was able to sort of put it through its paces with these doing these different competitions and playing lots of different repertoire on it. And it certainly passed the test with flying colors, and I was really sure that I wanted to buy it, and the competition success sort of sealed the deal almost. And the viola itself is a modern Italian viola, so it's made by a luthier called Vincenzo Cennino, and it was made in Rome in 1932, which I also discovered is the same year that my grandmother was born. So it's a lovely connection to have this coincidence of my viola being the same age as my grandmother.
And what's if you could identify another player who encapsulates your ideal of viola playing sound and style, who would it be?
Well, of course, Lionel Tertis and William Primrose are some older examples of this big sound that I really love playing with on my viola, but actually a more, shall we say, well, a live person that plays the viola today is Lawrence Power. He's actually one of my greatest inspirations, and he also has this just massive sound, and he's the way that he plays is in such a way that sounds so much like a human voice, and for me that's one of the most important things about playing the viola, because you know we really pride ourselves on the fact that our timbre is very close to that of the human voice, and so it's something that I do feel that my viola can give me, and I'm always striving to find that.
He always gives that impression that the size of the sound is effortless. It's not like he's working hard to get it. It's like it's there.
Definitely. Yes, it's unbelievable. And it helps probably that his viola is absolutely massive. I've played it once or twice, and it's just to actually do this kind of, to hold it is crazy, but it just looks like the perfect size for him.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself and the quartet being in 12 months' time? Or where would you like to see yourself and the quartet being in 12 months' time?
As an optimist, I'll go for the second version of that question. I'd love to see us getting closer to normal, even if our new normal involves giving more concerts for smaller audiences. I think the real challenge that we're all facing as musicians at the moment is just this travel frustration, really, that the government, the UK government at least, is not really acknowledging the fact that musicians who work overseas need to be able to travel and join this exempt list of workers, of which, you know, there are elite sports people on there. So it's hard to understand why we can't be on that list as well. So I really hope that eventually, you know, not to turn it political, but that eventually we will be able to join this illustrious list, and so that will make it more possible for us to do the sorts of concerts that we had planned this year. Because actually the greatest blessing of how this whole year has sort of panned out is that, of course, we have lost concerts, but we're very lucky that many of those concerts have actually been postponed. So it's just we're just really hoping that the postponed concerts will actually go ahead. And so, yeah, I mean, it would be really great if we can sort of find our way into a new normal that still involves performing in person to real human beings, because this digital age is a very dangerous one, I think, for classical music.
Yeah, I don't encounter much level of satisfaction with a lot of the digital offerings. They're definitely a second-class experience, and I actually don't find myself getting enthused about a lot of them the way I would about the same event if it were live.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think this is why we as a quartet have shied away from digital performances in general, because it's just such a different medium, and we really love being in the same room with other people, and being able to travel is part of what we love about the job. And so it's yeah, the digital age can be quite a daunting one for musicians.
And you will of course be in Westport next year.
Yes, I really hope we will be, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the artists that we were going to be playing with this year, especially one of my friends, Sinead O'Halloran. We're really hoping that we will be able to play this Brahms sextet together.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in Westport next year, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.